Buongiorno. Olio? Non ce l'hai? Cipolle?
Cipolle sì, non si può.
Impariamo l'italiano piano piano.
Un impegno quotidiano. Ciao, studenti saggi, and welcome back. Over the past few months, I've been experimenting with something new. Many of you have been listening to the podcast regularly. You follow the story, you work through the grammar. If you're a show supporter, you also have the study guides with written exercises for every major topic. You hear Mariella and Zena chasing clues through old libraries, hidden messages, and mysterious family secrets. But sooner or later, many learners run into the same problem. You finish an episode and you think, now what? Maybe you've understood most of the story. Maybe you've learned a new grammar point. But how do you actually practice it? I designed the podcast with production-based learning in mind, so that even when we're covering a new topic, you generally get the meaning first, and then there's a pause for you to come up with the Italian. It's my hope that you'll then review sections of the podcast to practice those sections again. The chapter markers in the podcast align directly with the headings in the transcript and study guides for this reason. One of the things that I love about podcasting is that it allows people to learn on their own schedule. You can pause, rewind, replay a section, or spend an entire week working through a single grammar topic, if that's what you need. You can listen while walking, driving, or sitting quietly with a coffee and a notebook, working through a chapter at your own pace. But language is also something we share with other people. Sometimes it helps to be able to ask a question, hear another learner's perspective, or discover that you're not the only person who is confused by a particular grammar point. And sometimes it helps to move beyond reviewing what you've already learned and start producing new language of your own. To take a grammar concept that you've encountered in the podcast and use it in a fresh situation, responding to prompts and building sentences in real time. That's where the Meetups come in. Once a week, for just an hour, a group of us gets together to ask questions, explore the grammar, and practice producing new language using the same concepts we've been studying in the podcast. And rather than simply talking about the Meetup today, I thought I'd invite you to kind of sit in on one. The Meetups give us a chance to slow down, ask questions, and work through the language together. And along the way, they've also become a place where I've been experimenting with a custom tutor called, of course, Antonio.
Ottima scelta.
The tutor?
Il nome.
Now, if you've listened to the podcast for any length of time, you'll already know Antonio. He's confident.
Naturalmente.
He's occasionally dramatic.
Non è vero.
And he never misses an opportunity to comment on somebody else's missteps.
Che esagerazione.
The tutor version of Antonio is a little different. He doesn't speak.
Come sarebbe a dire che non parlo?
In the Meetup, I mean. You appear as text on the screen.
Ah, giusto.
But he guides learners through the same grammar concepts that we've been exploring in the podcast. Recently, we've been working through episodes 24 to 29, which focus on one of the richest structures in Italian, the gerundio. I'd like to give you an example of how a session goes. We start up the tutor, either myself or another participant, and Antonio greets us with something like this. Antonio, would you mind playing the part of the tutor?
Vuoi dire la parte del tutor che non parla?
Yeah.
Con piacere, Mayra. Ciao, io sono Antonio. Benvenuto agli episodi dal 24 al 29. In questi episodi completiamo il quadro del gerundio. pronomi singoli e combinati, verbi riflessivi e reciproci, il gerundio composto usando avendo o essendo. Dimmi come ti chiami o scrivi start lesson per vedere i concetti.
So he asks my name. Why? Because supporters can also use the tutor on their own, and I thought it would be nice if the experience felt a little more personal. Then he responds,
Ciao Mayra, piacere di conoscerti. Scrivi Start Lesson per vedere tutti i concetti disponibili e scegliere da dove iniziare. Oppure, se sai già cosa vuoi studiare, puoi scrivere qualcosa come vai al concetto 1, 2 o 3.
Notice that the tutor doesn't throw everything at you at once. The material is divided into small concepts. You choose where you want to start or where you want to pick up. Let's go to concept 1.
Perfetto, Mayra. Hai attivato il concetto 1. Gerundio con pronomi singoli. Situazione 1. Stare più gerundio. Situazione 2. Gerundio da solo.
So, in this case, he's providing a label for two situations. The first one is with stare plus the gerundio. The second is with gerundio standing alone. If you've been listening to these episodes of the podcast, you'll already know about these two situations.
Che situazione è? Cercandole si è reso conto che erano dentro. Rispondi con situazione 1 o situazione 2.
Notice that Antonio isn't asking me to memorize a rule. He's asking me to do something with the rule. This is something I try to do throughout the podcast as well. Rather than simply hearing an explanation, I want you to have the opportunity to produce the language. I respond in this case by typing the number 2, and the tutor confirms the answer and gives us a little breakdown. Cercandole, looking for them, le being the keys, le chiave. Si è reso conto, he realized, che erano dentro, that they were inside. This is, situation 2, a standalone gerundio, so the pronoun le, le, attaches to cercando, becoming cercandole. Of course, the basic formation of the gerund was covered in a previous episode and a previous meetup, so this part is already established. The tutor asks, "What's next?" I simply say, "Next question." He responds,
Ora, proviamo un altro esercizio. Prendi la frase sta leggendo il documento. Sostituisci il documento con il pronome corretto e scrivi entrambe le versioni possibili. Ricorda, siamo nella situazione 1.
Now let's pause for a moment and think about that. We're replacing il documento with lo. Because this is stare più gerundio, there should be two possible answers, so we respond with lo sta leggendo o sta leggendolo. One thing I enjoy about using the tutor is that I don't always know what question is coming next, and sometimes it catches me out too, which is perfectly fine because, like you, I'm here to learn. Here's his response.
Hai applicato bene la regola della situazione 1. Con stare più gerundio, entrambe le posizioni sono corrette. Piccola nota. Si scrive leggendolo, con 2 G, non con una sola G.
I made a typo, so I get a little dose of fine-tuning with my spelling. Excellent. Next question.
Proviamo un altro esempio. Prendi questa frase. Portando il libro, ha notato la dedica. Adesso sostituisci il libro con il pronome corretto. Ricorda, siamo nella situazione 2, quindi il pronome deve essere attaccato al gerundio. Rispondi in italiano.
My response? Portandolo ha notato la dedica.
Bravissima, Mayra. Portandolo, ha notato la dedica. Perfetto. Perché? Questa è la situazione 2. Senza stare, quindi il pronome deve essere attaccato al gerundio.
Okay, so he's explaining it a little further, that this is situation 2 with no stare, so the pronoun must attach to the gerundio. He also gives a correct and a commonly incorrect way of saying it, but I don't want to put that one into your mind, so let's leave this one right here. Next, Antonio asks what's wrong with a sentence and how we would correct it. So you can see that you get a thorough review of the podcast content, but with another twist, with a group of people sharing ideas and coming up with the answers together. And there's another aspect of the podcast that also finds its way into the meetups. Alongside Mariella and Zena's main story, the tutor often introduces scenes involving Luca, Sara, and Carlo. These characters give us an opportunity to practice the same grammar concepts in fresh situations and conversations. During the meetup, we revisit these scenes together. Sometimes Antonio gives us the next line in English, and we try to produce the Italian. Sometimes we discuss why a particular form was used, and sometimes we simply enjoy spending a few minutes with characters that we've come to know. No pressure, no stress, we're all here learning together. So just to refresh your memory, this is the kind of scene that I'm talking about.
Pronto, Sara?
Ciao Luca, scusa, non posso parlare molto.
Sara wants to say, I'm getting ready to go out. Put the pronoun after the gerund.
Sto preparandomi per uscire. Sto preparandomi per uscire.
Hai visto Carlo?
Sì, è uscito. Ha trovato lo zaino, ma ha dimenticato le chiavi.
Sara!
Carlo, sei tu? Hai dimenticato le chiavi?
Carlo says, yes, I'm looking for them. This time put the pronoun before.
Sì, le sto cercando. Sì, le sto cercando.
Dove sei?
Now Carlo wants to say, I'm outside by the window listening to the dog bark. This is a gerund describing a simultaneous action.
Sono fuori alla finestra ascoltando il cane abbaiare. Sono fuori alla finestra ascoltando il cane abbaiare.
Now Carlo says, looking for them, I realized they're inside. This one is a gerundio standing alone with a pronoun attached. Once again, it's looking for them, I realized they're inside.
Cercandole mi sono reso conto che sono dentro. Cercandole mi sono reso conto che sono dentro.
And then we continue, one prompt at a time, one concept at a time, piano piano. Sometimes we get it right, and sometimes we make mistakes, followed up immediately with a clear explanation. Sometimes somebody asks a follow-up question, and sometimes we discover that a concept is more difficult than we thought. And that's where the meetup becomes valuable, when the aha moment occurs. It's not about getting every answer right. It's about understanding why an answer is right or wrong. The tutor is still evolving. Sometimes it works beautifully. Occasionally it needs a little help.
Nessuno è perfetto.
Fair enough. And when that happens, we discuss it together. We ask questions. We test examples. We look for better explanations. In other words, we're not just learning Italian, we're building the learning experience together. And I kind of think that that fits perfectly with the spirit of this podcast. A place where we don't just talk about the rules, but a place where we explore the language together through stories, conversation, context, and curiosity. The podcast gives us the story. The tutor gives us guided practice. The meetup gives us a chance to learn together. And together they create a complete learning experience. If you've been thinking about joining a meetup, I hope this gives you a better idea of what the Italian Piano Piano meetup is like. Relaxed, interactive, no one is expected to be perfect, We're all learning, including me. The Meetups run every Tuesday. This is your opportunity to spend an hour with me and Antonio exploring the language together, one concept at a time. And one final note before we finish. The Meetup you've heard today was based on episodes 24 to 29 and our work on the gerundio. But next week, we're going right back to the beginning of the podcast. I'll be introducing a brand new version of the Tutor built around episodes 1 to 3 and our first exploration of the imperfecto. So if you've ever thought, I wish I could go back and review everything from the beginning, this is your chance. We'll revisit Mariella's apartment, her daily routines, the early scenes of Le Pagine del Passato, and the 3 core uses of the imperfecto. We'll work through fresh prompts, new exercises, and plenty of opportunities for you to put the language into practice. But this isn't just a review. It's the start of a new journey through the podcast, one grammar topic at a time. We'll begin with the imperfecto, then continue on to the passato prossimo, reflexive verbs, pronouns, the gerundio, and everything that follows. As the podcast story unfolds, the Tutor and the Meetups will follow along with it, giving us opportunities to revisit each major topic, practice it in new ways, and deepen our understanding together. Whether you've been listening since episode 1 or you've only recently discovered the podcast, you're very welcome to join us. The link to the Meetup group and the specific event for the first workshop are both in the show notes. Just click and roll, and I'll see you Tuesday. And if you're already attending the Meetups, thank you. Your questions, your observations, and your willingness to experiment with me have helped shape what this community is becoming. Non vedo l'ora di vedervi lì.
Piano piano, vivendo e imparando.
Sono diverse?
Sì, sono belle rosse. Posso?
Pomodori.
Pomodori quali? Buoni. Questi qui? Ti faccio lo sconto, 10.
Grazie.
Buona giornata,
Buona giornata.
Andiamo.
Ehi, tu. Sì, tu. Psst.
Antonio, what's the matter?
Non tu, Mayra. Gli studenti saggi.
Gli studenti saggi. What about them?
Stanno sparendo, senza cliccare il link.
Hai ragione. It would be a simple thing just to scroll down and click.
Dai, prova.
Ci vediamo lì al Meetup? Spero di sì.